Meghan Markle has suddenly disappeared. On Tuesday night, she and her son Archie were last seen at London Heathrow Airport boarding a private jet with no sign of Harry, no daughter accompanying them, and most notably, not a single message or explanation left behind for the royal family. According to insider sources, everything unfolded just hours after a brief but reportedly tense conversation between Meghan and King Charles III. Inside that closed-door room, what exactly was said that could drive a woman to abandon everything from a royal life within the palace walls to her noble title and take her son as if fleeing from a secret, too devastating to expose? Multiple independent sources point to the same disturbing possibility: a DNA test result and a truth capable of shaking the very foundation of an entire monarchy. If everything was transparent, then why did Meghan have to leave so abruptly? That question is now sending shockwaves across the United Kingdom, and the world seems to be holding its breath, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. Part 1. Maintains. The final call, Meghan and King Charles. On Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. at Clarence House. In a last-minute schedule update, Meghan Markle received an unexpected private invitation from King Charles III, an unusual invite given that Prince Harry was not present, nor were any royal advisors. The confidential meeting took place in a secondary sitting room on the second floor, a space reserved solely for private family conversations, far from official affairs. The discussion lasted no more than 40 minutes, but its aftermath, as the public is now witnessing, may quietly reverberate for years to come. According to a source close to the royals, the meeting left no trace, no recordings, no secretary present, no cameras, no notes. It was a man-to-man conversation as King Charles desired. That choice raises a profound question. Why would a king known for his caution favor a spoken message for such a consequential matter? Could he have understood that any leak from behind those closed doors might trigger an irreversible shock to the British monarchy? Many believe the hypothesis is this case. This King Charles informed Meghan of the results of a DNA test related to Archie. And those results, based on indirect interpretation, suggest that the child does not carry Windsor blood. Meghan's departure from the palace just hours later, packing her belongings and leaving the UK within 12 hours, signals that this was not a reconciliation meeting. It felt more like a warning, perhaps even an ultimatum. Immediately, the media began asking dozens of questions. If the DNA result was real, who commissioned the test? And why so many years after Archie's birth, a former royal legal advisor speculated. Accumulated doubts, lack of transparency, and mounting pressure from forces around the throne may have forced Charles to do what he always wanted to avoid: verify the truth. A truth that, if left unaddressed, could directly impact the line of succession, the order of inheritance, and above all, public confidence in the monarchy's legitimacy. So if that truth exists, why not disclose it? Why does the royal family remain silent as if nothing happened? Perhaps the answer lies in a strategy of protecting the institution through ambiguity, a tradition the British Crown has used for centuries. In this case, if the results were made public, not only would Meghan be deeply hurt, but Prince Harry would be placed in an unprecedented position as someone potentially deceived, misled, and even a father betrayed in a profoundly bitter way. More significantly, if Archie truly does not carry Windsor ancestry, then all the benefits Meghan has received over the years, from finances to status, could be deemed fraudulent. Quietly warning Meghan and allowing her to step away silently might serve as a face-saving move for the crown, while avoiding a drawn-out legal media battle that neither side wants. However, Meghan's response was the opposite of silent withdrawal. It was a full-blown escape. She did not reunite with Harry. She left no letter. She did not appear anywhere further in the palace. That night, she and Archie were seen leaving a Knightsbridge hotel, where she had claimed to be staying temporarily for safety reasons, but clearly had already decided to sever all ties. Within hours, according to internal financial sources, Meghan urgently contacted her legal team in America, requesting the freezing or suspension of multiple charitable organizations she and Harry managed. Everything happened in a suspiciously swift and decisive manner. It was an uncommonly cold and deliberate chain of actions. A normal person hurt by suspicion might demand clarity, seek justice, or at least request a retest. But when the response is to clear all funds, take their child, and cut cut all communication that signals someone pushed to their very limit, preparing a strategic retreat. A British media expert commented, "If this was a shock, she reacted too tactically. If it was pre-planned, Charles simply pulled the trigger just as Meghan loaded the gun." Another, perhaps overlooked hypothesis remains: could this have been a final negotiation? Perhaps Meghan was told that if she stayed, everything would come out publicly with legal consequences. But if she agreed to leave, stay silent, relinquish benefits, and never again exploit royal status, then everything would be handled internally. Essentially, trade honor for silence, bitter truth for a more comfortable order. Few can truly accept such a price unless they have no other choice. That final call between Meghan and King Charles, if reported accurately, was not merely a private conversation. It was a pivotal moment in which an ancient dynasty confronted an internal threat, and a woman once dominating global media faced the ultimate boundary between truth and deception. If indeed there was a DNA report in that room, it was not just a sheet of paper, but a silent indictment of an era built on illusions, where the line between fact and fiction has grown dangerously thin. Part 2. The hasty escape. In less than half a day after her meeting with King Charles, Meghan Markle left Clarence House without informing her husband, without bringing her daughter, and without leaving behind any indication that she intended to return. This action left members of the royal household completely blindsided. A staff member from the palace logistics department revealed that Meghan's departure was not part of any approved plan, and that the entire situation unfolded under unusually rushed conditions. An unmarked vehicle discreetly picked her up from a rear gate of the palace and took her directly to a luxury hotel in Knightsbridge, where Meghan stayed for only a few hours before heading to Heathrow Airport around midnight. While waiting for her flight, Meghan made a series of urgent phone calls not just to her attorneys, but also to financial advisors and several media figures in the United States. A source from a Los Angeles-based law firm disclosed that Meghan had requested an emergency shutdown of all activities under the Archewell Foundation, the charitable organization she co-founded with Harry. She also ordered an immediate halt to all media campaigns currently in production. Significantly, Archewell had been preparing to publish its upcoming quarterly financial report, and there was no clear reason to suspend operations unless, of course, there was a major crisis. But what exactly that crisis entailed, only Meghan seemed to know. Adding to the intrigue was Meghan's swift financial maneuver. She transferred a large sum of money from the couple's joint account to a personal account in the United States. According to the Financial Post, the amount was estimated to be between 5 and 8 million USD, a legal transfer, but one that occurred just before she cut off all communication with the royal family. This raised immediate questions. Had Meghan anticipated a possible account freeze or audit? And if so, then her actions were no longer merely reactive. They suggested the unfolding of a premeditated plan. Withdrawing funds, severing financial ties, and taking her son out of the UK in the middle of the night all mirrored strategic exit scenarios typically seen in political scandals or corporate crises. Yet coming from someone who once symbolized peace, feminism, charity, and humanitarian values like Meghan, these moves were not just shocking, they marked a radical shift in how the public perceived her. Meghan was no longer seen as the devoted mother, loyal wife, or celebrated activist. At least that was no longer the image held by investors and supporters who once stood by her. Countless questions arose. If Meghan had nothing to hide, why act as though she were fleeing? Why not opt for transparency, honest dialogue, or present evidence to defend her honor? Why cut off communication with the very family she had once described as essential to her children's future? And if she was truly hurt, why not speak up with reason instead of walking away in silence? A media psychology expert from Oxford University noted Meghan's reaction doesn't resemble someone blindsided by an insult. It resembles someone who had mentally prepared for the worst-case scenario. She didn't respond with words, she responded with financial and physical movement, classic signs of someone in control of the game. From this perspective, the act of transferring funds and freezing operations was not merely a defensive reflex, it resembled a calculated severing, as if Meghan was not just leaving the palace, but erasing every remaining tie to its system. Another detail that sparked intense debate across social media was Meghan's decision not to bring her daughter. Lilibet remained in London with Harry and a nanny, while Meghan left only with Archie. Why many speculate that Meghan believed Archie was at the center of the allegations, and by taking him, she ensured control over the main character in this unfolding narrative. A political analyst for The Independent described it as a symbolic power tactic, suggesting Meghan understood all too well that in any debate surrounding bloodlines and legitimacy, Archie was the piece she could not afford to lose. As Meghan retreated from all public engagements, the British royal family adopted an almost chilling silence. No press statements, no official remarks, not even a word of criticism or defense. This silence only deepened public suspicion. British media analysts argue that such silence was no accident, it was strategic. Speaking too early might unintentionally confirm the seriousness of the events. Remaining silent, however, would allow Meghan's actions to reveal everything themselves. The result was a storm of confusion in the public sphere. Major forums in the UK and US erupted with heated debates. Some claimed Meghan was a victim forced to flee a toxic environment. Others accused her of deceiving an entire institution, and now doing everything possible to avoid facing the truth. The New York Post went as far as to label the entire episode the Duchess escape plan, the boldest exit strategy in the history of modern royal media. With a series of actions executed step by step, from wiring money, calling lawyers, removing her child to freezing the foundation, Meghan offered no explanation, only a lingering question mark. No statement, no release, not even one of the open letters she was once known for publishing. And that very silence, for the first time in years of controversy, was what truly made the world worry. Was this the reaction of someone genuinely wounded? Or was it a sign that she already knew this time there was no room left for truth in any dialogue? Part 3, The Husband Left Behind. 2 days after Meghan Markle quietly departed the UK with her son Archie, Prince Harry appeared alone at a memorial event for World War veterans in London. His face bore the unmistakable signs of tension, his gaze was distant, and not a single smile crossed his lips. It was the first time in years that Harry had shown up at an official event without his wife, without his little family by his side, and without the usual air of confidence that once defined the man who defied the press in the name of love. Her absence was so conspicuous that it needed no confirmation Meghan had left and Harry was not with her. In all subsequent appearances, the prince remained completely silent. No official statement, no personal post, no announcement, no open letter, entirely at odds with the outspoken defense he had always shown Meghan since 2016. This led the public to question, did Harry truly have no idea what was happening this time? Or did he in fact know everything but chose silence? A silence of helpless complicity. The biggest question circulating everywhere was, did Harry know about the DNA test results in advance? And if he did, why remain silent? A psychologist from the University of Cambridge observed, Harry's reaction reflects someone experiencing deep shock, not just anger, but an identity crisis. When someone you love walks away without a word, the one left behind can only be in one of two roles, either the victim or the person who knew from the start but was powerless to stop it. A particularly noteworthy detail, Harry was not seen at the airport, did not show up at the hotel where Meghan stayed before leaving, and there has been no photo evidence of a reunion in the US. If he had truly wanted to hold his family together, there would be no justification for allowing his wife and son to leave unilaterally. That leaves two possibilities. Either Harry was entirely in the dark, or he had been excluded from all decisions from the start. In either case, the question lingers, how could the man who once gave up his royal title to protect his wife now be the one left behind, without even an explanation? A controversial theory began to surface in the media that Meghan had leveraged the full weight of Harry's trust and status to construct the image of a model family, an image that easily tugged at public sentiment, especially when wrapped in the fairy tale aura of a modern-day prince and princess. In that narrative, Harry was simply the royal shell powering media projects, charity initiatives, and multi-million-dollar deals. And when that royal shell no longer shone the way she wanted, Meghan opted to walk away, leaving the very man who had stood by her to sift through the rubble of lost dignity and broken trust. However, we also cannot rule out the possibility that Harry had long sensed something was wrong with the story surrounding Archie's lineage, the royal family's long-standing hesitation toward Archie, the growing emotional distance between Harry's extended family and his own nuclear unit, and the string of irreparable conflicts all may have pushed him into a torn position between love and truth. And when unable to choose, he chose silence, a form of resignation or perhaps a wait for the truth to eventually reveal itself. But this time, the public no longer sympathized with that silence. A wave of criticism began to rise, especially after the media discovered Meghan had taken Archie, but left Lilibet behind, the daughter named after Queen Elizabeth II's private nickname. People began to wonder if this was all just a misunderstanding. Why not keep both children close? If nothing was serious, why take one and leave the other, as though someone were being held hostage? And amid all of this, where was Harry? Many now express sympathy for Harry, believing he may simply be a victim in a relationship he had been led through and controlled from the start. His dramatic transformation from a resolute soldier and patriotic prince to a man who abandoned duty, severed ties with family, and appeared only in media products orchestrated by Meghan left the public deeply unsettled. Did he lose himself for love? Or had he never truly had the chance to be himself since the beginning of this marriage? A Canadian social commentator once wrote in The Guardian, Meghan didn't just control the chessboard, she rewrote the rules. And Harry, out of love or confusion, handed her the pen. That sentence now rings like a warning when a man gets pulled into the vortex of an image ideal and media machine crafted by someone else. There comes a point when he can no longer tell what role he actually plays in that performance. And now with Meghan gone, Archie, with her Lilibet left behind, the royal family remaining silent, and the media in uproar, Harry has become a silent object at the eye of the storm. He no longer holds the reins of the story, nor does he have the standing to mediate. And perhaps most frightening of all, he may no longer even have the chance to begin again. The question now is this silence a strategic pause, waiting for the right moment to speak? Or is it a sign of surrender, an admission that everything has spiraled beyond his control? If tomorrow Meghan comes forward to tell her side of the story, or worse, levels accusations against Harry, will he still have the standing to defend himself? And if the DNA results show that Archie is not his biological son, will Harry have the courage to stand before the world and say, "I was deceived"? In the long history of the British monarchy, never before has such an intimate truth been thrust so violently into the public eye, sparking this level of controversy. And Harry, the man who left the royal family in pursuit of freedom, may now be the first to learn no freedom ever comes without a price. Part 4. What is the truth about the bloodline? When a child is born into an ordinary family, few people demand proof of anything. But in a royal family, where identity is tied to power, wealth, and even history, every detail from bloodline to birth timing becomes politically charged. And for that reason, from the very moment Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor, the son of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, entered the world, he was never afforded the chance to be just a regular child. From the moment of Archie's birth, several elements deviated from royal tradition. There were no photographs capturing the mother and child in the delivery room, an established tradition, or at least common practice for royal daughters-in-law before her. No royal medical team appeared. No independent confirmation from the hospital. Meghan chose Portland Hospital, a highly discreet private facility in London, instead of St. Mary's Hospital, where Princess Kate gave birth to all 3 of her children. The stated reason was privacy. But was it truly about privacy, or was it in fact a calculated effort to conceal something? Many media experts have long questioned the irregularities throughout Meghan's pregnancy. At one point, her baby bump appeared unusually large just days after looking remarkably small. Viral video clips showed Meghan's stomach moving in strange ways as she sat down, prompting questions about whether the bump was even real. The Daily Mail once published a side-by-side comparison of Meghan and other women in the same stage of pregnancy, concluding that her shape, posture, and body movements were significantly different. While the medical community has made no official statements, social media audiences had already rendered their verdict long before any DNA test rumors surfaced. One particularly controversial point: unlike any royal child before him, Archie had no formal debut with the media. No traditional photo session, no video of the newborn leaving the hospital. All the public received was a black and white image on Instagram, accompanied by a brief caption that omitted the time of birth. It was a beautiful photo, but one that lacked any verifiable detail. At the time, the British public largely respected the couple's desire for privacy. But now people are asking again, why was everything so carefully obscured? In the explosive 2021 interview with Oprah, Meghan claimed her son was denied the title of prince due to racial discrimination. However, succession laws issued by King George V clearly state that only the direct grandchildren of the reigning monarch are entitled to the titles of prince or princess. At the time of Archie's birth, Queen Elizabeth II was still alive, meaning Archie did not qualify for a royal title under the law. In other words, Meghan's claim was not only inaccurate, it suggested either a lack of understanding of royal protocol or a deliberate attempt to distort the truth to play the victim. It didn't stop there. Several international reporters attempted to obtain a copy of Archie's original birth certificate. While a version was made public, the mother's name was listed as Rachel Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, a ceremonial label rather than a medically verified identity. The document mentioned no hospital, no attending physician, no witness. A journalist from The Times disclosed, "We tried to verify every detail of that event, but what we got was a shell there was no substance inside. And that only deepened public suspicion. If everything was legitimate, why not let the truth speak for itself? In this case, the issue of bloodline is not merely a private matter. It concerns the royal line of succession. If Meghan gave birth to a child unrelated to Harry, but still allowed the boy to carry the royal name, receiving privileges, security, and royal media appearances, that action legally and socially could be deemed fraudulent. But if that is not the truth, why not present evidence to silence all doubts? Why choose to leave in silence instead of standing up for what's true?" One theory that once rocked Western media circles claimed Meghan had used a surrogate, not illegal, but if hidden intentionally to legitimize a royal identity, for a child with no blood tie, it would amount to a severe ethical crisis. A second darker theory, the entire narrative was fabricated. Archie is neither Harry's biological child, nor was he born by Meghan, but rather a media figure created to boost personal status and capitalize on royal fame. Of course, these remain theories, but the irregularities are far too glaring to ignore. From inconsistencies in her pregnancy appearance, avoidance of public healthcare institutions, refusal to participate in royal traditions, to Meghan's aggressive reactions whenever asked for basic proof that she gave birth to Archie, none of it aligns with typical maternal behavior. A normal mother, when her child is doubted, will fight to protect and validate that bond. Meghan, when questioned, chose to walk away. And this leads to the most crucial question still being asked: if Meghan is entirely innocent, if everything is a misunderstanding, if Archie truly is her and Harry's biological son, then why not provide one simple piece of evidence? A complete medical birth certificate, a photo from the delivery room, a formal statement from the attending doctor. Just one, but Meghan never did. And in the current context, her silence is becoming the loudest sound of all. If the DNA results, as reportedly revealed in a private meeting with King Charles, do confirm that Archie shares no genetic link with the Windsor line, then the entire framework of Meghan's royal identity will collapse. It won't just be about losing titles. It will be about the collapse of public trust. A woman can make mistakes, but a mother who deliberately hides the truth about her child's bloodline for personal gain will find it almost impossible to regain the public's forgiveness. And if this turns out to be true, Meghan won't be the only one to fall. Harry, the man who once vowed to protect his wife and children at all costs, will become the most tragic victim in a performance he never even knew he was part of. Part 5. What role does Meghan play? When a woman finds herself at the center of a scandal, the instinctive reaction is often to fight back, whether through reasoned words or even legal action. But in Meghan Markle's case, her recent behavior defies all conventional patterns. There has been no press conference to clarify matters, no rebuttals, no appearances to correct, explain, or even cry. This silence has led the public to a fundamental question. Is Meghan truly a woman pushed into a corner, or has she been the one silently orchestrating every move from the very beginning with masterful precision? No one can deny that Meghan is an intelligent woman. With her background as an actress, she deeply understands the power of the lens, the weight of perfectly timed words, and most importantly, the value of a carefully curated image. She once brought millions to tears with her tearful gaze during the Oprah interview, speaking of isolation, mental anguish, and media injustice. But the question remains, were those emotions genuine or merely strategic tools? Some media analysts, upon reviewing Meghan's past controversies from accusations of staff bullying at Kensington Palace to inconsistencies in her statements about the royal family, have identified a clear pattern. Whenever backed into a corner, Meghan never reacts directly. She always counters through platforms she controls: an exclusive interview, a self-produced media campaign, or a charity-branded project. She doesn't simply respond, she builds a stage. And that is not the behavior of someone powerless. However, this time, things seem to have spun beyond Meghan's usual orbit of control. Not because she's incapable, but because the media systems that once helped her steer public perception no longer seem as effective. Major partners like Netflix and Spotify have withdrawn from Meghan-related projects. Some sources report that the Archewell Foundation is now facing challenges over financial transparency, raising concerns among donors. Public sentiment, once firmly in her favor, has also shifted. What was once a protective shield may now be her heaviest burden. So what is Meghan's response in this context? Retreat. Cut ties, disappear. Many interpret this retreat as a loss of control. But there's a counter-narrative gaining traction that Meghan still holds the reins, only now the game has entered a new phase. Leaving, taking Archie, liquidating assets, and shutting down charities, these may not be signs of panic, but rather preparation for the next act. An act where Meghan no longer needs a royal title, only the enduring image of a wounded mother, a betrayed woman. In large-scale media or political operations, what appears to be a public failure can sometimes serve as a launchpad for a calculated victory. A television producer who once worked with Meghan on an unreleased project noted, "She always knows how to create a climax. But the most terrifying thing is she also knows exactly when to go silent. Meghan's disappearance isn't a sign of confusion. It might be the silence before the strike. The question is, was this an observation or a warning?" It's worth remembering that Meghan has long relied on meticulous preparation with top Hollywood communications advisors for every major move. From pregnancy announcements, childbirth, royal exit, to charity campaigns, all bore the hallmarks of strategic planning. So is there any reason to believe that this escape was impulsive? Or is it in fact a calculated finale to the British chapter, setting the stage for a new journey in America where Meghan is no longer bound by royalty, British media, or any unspoken code? Yet perhaps the more pressing concern lies not in where Meghan is headed, but in what she's left behind. Harry, the husband who once defied an entire institution for her, now appears abandoned. Lilibet, their young daughter, left behind with no clear explanation. And the public, those who once believed in a fairy tale romance, are now grappling with an unsettling possibility that they may have unwittingly been the audience to a multi-season drama where the main character wasn't living the story, but narrating it. Meghan once said, "I just want to live as my true self." But if everything has been crafted to serve a version divorced from the truth, then who exactly is that true self? A resilient single mother? A duchess scarred by royal coldness? Or a woman who learned how to use every tool, including motherhood, to build her own power? At this moment, Meghan may be somewhere in the United States in a heavily secured mansion with Archie and a trusted team of advisors. No one knows her next move. But one thing is clear, the public is no longer easily swayed. They are asking questions. They're no longer applauding just because she cries, and that more than any strategic retreat is the real sign of lost control. Not when you run out of plans, but when the audience stops believing in the performance you're giving. So then, did Meghan Markle leave because she was falsely accused, or because the truth had become too glaring to keep hidden any longer? Was her abrupt retreat a panicked impulse, or the final move in a strategy that had been in motion for years? We're not here to pass judgment, but what about you? What do you think? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you still believe in Meghan Markle? If you believe this is a story others need to hear, share this video right now. And don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on the next twists in this royal drama that is far from over. Because the truth is never on the surface. It always lies deeper, reserved only for those sharp enough to see past the mask others want you to trust.